Greetings, family. This is Cassandra Faye Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates, founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. So I am going to just read the global conspiracy to right all wrongs because I don't want to take any extra time. Don't want to get off on any tangents, no matter how significant they may be. I want to do a quick read that I've been threatening to do for about 5 days now, so I can get it out of my head and out of my life and say it was done. And let's see. Yeah, and be done with it so I can clear more of the things out of my head. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the reading of the global conspiracy to right all wrong. We are the breakers of curses, the casters of glorious conspiracies, and the creators of the new world. I, Cassandra Faye Floyd, am a divine instrument of my mother's divine will. As such, I am protected and guided by the sacred blood and water of my mother, Jacqueline Jeanette Cook's body, that anointed my entry into this life. I am divine because she is divine. Mommy and I are one. I call all of our mothers to this moment. I call on they who govern everything, all time and every space in between. She with 10,000 names. Today it is Oya, Yemaya, Oshun, Iyami-Aj, divine architects of existence, usheresses of the new age. Mommy and I are one. I call upon the divine ancestors and the Ashe of every mother on earth to break every curse ever cast upon the mother and her children. In all timelines and in all dimensions, Mommy and I are one. We, the mother's divine children, conspire together today to forever bind those who have or would harm you, great mother. Mommy and I are one. We conspire together today to destroy everything and everyone in every timeline and dimension that is called suffering and despair. Mommy and I are one. Today, we embody the sacred and divine power of our mothers. Today, we the tree, we the weavers rewrite all time. Today, we the tree, we the weavers rewrite the book of life. Today, we, our mother's children, call the winds of change. We conjure the primordial dark. We summon the sacred serpent deep from within the earth. We subdue the rogue sun. We control the light. We heal the harm. We embolden the fearful. We instill courageous action. Today, we are staging a global evolution as is our mother's divine will. Mommy and I are one. We, the architects of the new age, now create the new institutions, the new traditions, the new culture, the new ways of being. We ecstatically welcome the radical destruction of all institutions of hate and harm erected by the godheads of war. Mommy and I are one. We have the power. We have the voice. We are the portals of change. Now we employ our sacred breath and give life and sacred blood to this conspiracy. Mommy and I are one. We command, come the wind, come the storm, come the lightning, capture and judge all godheads of war and all betrayers of the mother's divine will. Bring their confusion and war to an immediate end. Scatter them to oblivion, never to be resurrected. We are the fates. We are the furies. We are the Iyami-Aj. We are the disseminators of divine time, divine retribution, divine rectification, and evolutionary justice. Mommy and I are one. We are the restorers of heaven on earth under the mother's divine reign. We wake the sacred serpent from her sleep to assist us in this sacred assignment. Mommy and I are one. Love unlimited is our birthright. Harmony is our birthright. Ecstasy is our birthright. Pleasure is our birthright. Freedom is our birthright. This is her divine will, and we are the divine executors of her will. We speak her will into the now to reverberate throughout all time, all space, and all dimensions. It is certainly as we say, forever and ever, Mommy and I are one. Mommy and I are one. Mommy and I are one. So, like I said, no introductions, no frilly frills. I'm about to do this reading. Get up off here. I'll do another longer live later. I'm preparing to do a reading for someone here soon, so I'm going to be deliberate. And also, I'm going to do some housekeeping. So, those of you who are tuning in via IG, those of you who are tuning in via YouTube, there are several ways that you can support the work of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence as led by myself. So the email address for the temple is EvoEmeTemp at gmail.com. EVO, I'm gonna put it in the the comment section over here on YouTube too. EvoEmeTemp at gmail.com. With that email, you can make a donation via Zelle or PayPal. You can also use that email to book a divination, either a 30-minute or a 1-hour divination session. If you prefer to make your donation via Cashapp, you're going to do $DaughterOfTheFates, just like you see at the top of the screen. If you want to do Venmo, you can do my name, CASSANDRAFLOYD. Those are all the ways that you can make a contribution. For those of you who are tuning in via YouTube, I can't do it here on IG, but I also placed in the comment section the link to the active GoFundMe that is attempting to help me keep myself housed. So that GoFundMe is in the comment section. If you've already contributed to the GoFundMe, my request is that you take the GoFundMe link and post it at least once a day on your social media, your main page, on your social media main page. Text it to friends, email it to people that whether you think they may be able to help or not, email it anyway, because you never know who is moved by the content, because I'm constantly on my GoFundMe. I'm constantly, almost 3 or 4 times a day, placing updates about work that I'm doing, about new YouTubes that people can benefit from, all of that stuff. So you never know. Send it to people, send it to organizations of a certain type. And yeah, so that's what I'm asking, is if you've already contributed, or if you don't have the ability to contribute, if you have ever been fed from any of the content, if you've ever benefited from my hands-on service, if you've ever, benefited in any way from any of the workshops that I've taught off-site, then please take the few seconds that it'll take to share that GoFundMe so I can keep myself housed in this city. Okay? All right. So that being said, what I'm going to read today, what I've been trying to read for the 4 days before I end up going into these deep, whatever this is, over the last few days, as there were things, because we're in Aquarius season, but not only are we in Aquarius season, we are still in a big way, in the energy of Saturn. And the reason why is because even though we know that Capricorn is, governed or ruled by Saturn, in early astrology, before the outer planets were discovered, Aquarius was also ruled by Saturn. And so that's why there's so many similarities between Capricorn and Aquarius. But the other thing that's really interesting, and so they still equate Aquarius with a 2-planet ruler, which is Saturn and Uranus, right? And so not only do people call Aquarius the water bearer, but people also call Uranus the light bearer, aka Prometheus, which is, associated with the mythology of Uranus. Okay. That's really important, because the other thing that is important about why I felt the need to demystify Aquarius is because right now, since the year 2020, as a matter of fact, since the exact date of February 2020, February 20th, 2022, Pluto entered the sign of Aquarius, and that's where we are. And this Pluto in Aquarius, which represented America's first Pluto return, meaning Pluto was in Aquarius when the United States was, quote, given birth to, this Pluto in Aquarius that lasted from February 20th of 2022 to November 19th of 2024. That was the transitional period of America's first Pluto returns. And then when Pluto moved permanently into Aquarius on November 19th of 2024, this began a 20-year walk that we are on with Pluto and Aquarius working things out until the year 2044. So every big, giant, once in a lifetime, once in 1,000 years, once in 6,000 years, once in 12,000 years event that's been happening since 2022 has been intensified times a million, because these once in a human species event, these things are happening under the context of this already extraordinary event that is longstanding and occurring and will be unfolding until 2044. So that's the other thing. I talked a lot over the years. I have the workshop that I taught leading up to try to prepare people for what entering into America's first Pluto returns was going to look like and what to be on the lookout for and how to prepare. So if you want to find that workshop, it is in my folders on my YouTube channel. But the short version is I switched a lot between, quote, Greco-Roman understanding of, quote, a Pluto returns and what it has historically meant for nations, because we don't experience Pluto returns in our human life because we don't live long enough. The rotation is 248 years. And so nations pay attention to and plan for their Pluto returns. And so we are in this nation's Pluto return, and the Pluto in Aquarius will be literally under this umbrella of the Pluto in Aquarius, which is in Ifa astrology or cosmology, is the governess of radical change and transformation. She who governs all revelations, the owner of mask, she who will remove the mask to expose your enemies so that they can be judged, or she who will wear a mask to be able to get closer to her enemies undetected. She who is the governess of the lungs, aka the winds of change that are in your own body. And if she sees fit, then she, as the governess of the lungs, can quote, grow her army of Egun, aka ancestors, meaning she can wipe a bunch of people out because she governs the lungs. So she grows her army of ancestors to defeat transgressions on the earth. You feel me? This is Pluto, aka the goddess Oya. And her partnership, Pluto entering into Aquarius, where she will be until the year 2044. Aquarius is Shango. Aquarius is Shango. So Oya and Shango, who are known in Ifa tradition as the great revolutionaries, the, quote, husband and wife duo, who don't even live together because they're so dynamic on their own. They're like, look, I love you, but I have to love you from afar. But when it's time to sharpen these blades and go to work on behalf of justice, on behalf of clearing out the old and decadent, the institutions of harm, we the ones, because can't nobody get this job done like we, Oya and Shango, aka Pluto and Aquarius. This is what we have been walking through. So that's the other aspect. Shango is analogous to Aquarius. There you go again. And the last thing is what was it? On the 26th, when I did that very long live, on the 26th, Neptune entered Aries at 0 degrees. This is a preparation for, on February 17th, Saturn will be entering Aries at 0 degrees in a conjunction with Neptune. Okay? This has not happened since the year 4731 BC. 4731 BC is the last time that Saturn and Neptune entered into a conjunction at 0 degrees in Aries. And so I'm going to talk more in detail about that later, but this is the reason that I'm going to read to you what I'm going to read today, because I'm going to keep shouting from the mountaintops. I'm going to keep going hard, because since the 26th straight through April 1st, we have to be deliberate. This is the only time, first of all, you're going to ever hear me tell you, you might want to consider mantras, okay, to keep our mouth, because Aquarius is Aquarius is, quote, the water bearer. But what is the water that, quote, Aquarius is pouring from heaven? Aquarius, who, quote, pours the waters of enlightenment, the waters of unity, the waters of radical change. But Aquarius, as I just told you, because he is actually ruled by 2 planets, is also the light bearer, not just the water bearer, the light bearer. What kind of light? That lightning strike that you always see when something miraculous springs from your skull. That little bing, that little bing of light that just comes seemingly from out of nowhere, when something from somewhere, whether ancient or new, comes together at the right moment and at the right time and space to help you solve a problem for which you thought there was no cure. How does this relate to Neptune entering into Aries, Saturn entering into Aries at 0 degrees? But this is all happening in the sign of Aquarius, and at the same time, the new moon, which is a solar eclipse that will be happening 2 days after this event, where there will then, at the same time of this solar eclipse, will be 5 planets in Aquarius. Neptune is the deep, primordial, dark, undiscovered water. It is where all the secrets lie. This is your ancestors. And so here you have, I'm not going to talk about that. I just want to give you an overall preview about why I thought it was so important to sit down here for a few minutes and read some things to you from this wonderful, awesome, amazing book here, The Women's Dictionary of Symbols and Sacred Objects by Barbara G. Walker, about Aquarius in general, about the iconography associated with Aquarius, and because I have been really disgusted, to say the least, really unimpressed, even with some of my most favorite astrologers, about the assessment that they are delivering about these magnanimous events that are unfolding at the very beginning, our very entry into this year that has the potential to change every goddamn thing. And they're just still reciting the same old shit. And I feel like the state has intervened in all your astrological spaces, and that's why you can't get what the fuck you need from any of these astrologers to give you some insight. One, what you just walked the fuck up out of last year, and how it was a preparation for the potentiality from one extreme or another to prepare you for seizing control of power, or to terrorize you into absolute and final submission. You feel me? So that's why we gonna do this today. Now that I did a long ass intro that I said I wasn't gonna do. Okay. I know some of you have this book, The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. And so if you have this, I'll say what the page numbers are. So even if you have to go back later and go to those. So there are a lot of images. I only got 15 minutes because I have a reading at 5. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm gonna do? At 4. As a matter of fact, let me email this sister real quick and see if I can put her off 30 minutes. Let me do that. All right, sorry about that. All right, thank you for the donation, Claudia Ankra. It's good to see you all. S. Taylor, Ken's Color Box. What? Let's see. Everybody, Sage Page. Peter GH. I hope I didn't slaughter that. Candace Williams. Everybody in the house. Jen's Alternative and Christy Michelle Alvarez over here on IG. Make sure to share in real time right now. Share to the live. Okay. All right. So there are some, I will be a lot more organized about this later. But there are some things that I want you to know right away. I'm going to be talking because this is the what you call it? The Women's Dictionary of Symbols and Sacred Objects. You feel me? So we are going to be talking about symbols and how they relate, sacred objects and how they relate, whatever. Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to save that one for later. All right. So Aquarius. So the first thing that we know about Aquarius, we most relate to the sign of Aquarius is the pot, right? Is the pot that Aquarius pours the divine waters of heaven down upon our skull. You feel me? So let's see here. Where are my little sticks? Marked everything that I wanted to read. I have little sticks because I still have about 10 million bookmarks up in this book that eventually I got to get to. Let's see. Do that one for later too. Okay. All right. So the first page that we are going to go to, you know what? Let me just turn to the back. Pots. Okay. So the first page that we're going to go to is page 140 for those of you who do have your book and are going to follow along. All right. So the first page is actually related to the jar of Aquarius. All right. Jar. And I can even show y'all the cute little image of the jar with the waters overflowing. Ugh. There you go. All right. So there you go. So jar. A jar sprouting streams of water was a fertility symbol in ancient Egypt and the Middle East from the beginning of civilization. The goddess Isis wore on her neck a jar-shaped amulet representing her fountains of living water, the emblem of Ma, or mother, as the primordial deep. According to Apuleius, water in a jar also represented Osiris. Osiris. It was Nile water lifted up in the ritual of the god's resurrection, exactly as the chalice is elevated at Christian altars today. In India, any deity could be incarnated in a jar of water, which was called the holy seat. Yeah. Shit. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm marking the date on this because last night I gotta just read through this. But anyway, let's see. The holy seat of the deity for the duration of the worship. In Greece, the cognate word for pithos is jar, merging of goddess with her consort was often described as a mingling of waters from two jars. When Demeter Cabiria took the young god Cabirius as her consort in the Cabirian mysteries of Phrygia, both deities were represented by water jars. The gospel story of a mysterious man bearing a jar of water to lead Jesus into Jerusalem, according to Luke 22:10, was based on the Babylonian precedent wherein the savior god Nebo or Nabu was led to the place of his immolation and resurrection by a jar bearer. As in the worship of Osiris, Cabirius, and other fertility gods, the jar temporarily symbolized the deity himself. Jar ceremonies were prominent in the 3-day Anthesteria, a spring rebirth festival of Dionysus. The first day was the jar opening, or Pythogia, when the new wine from the previous vintage was tasted. The second day was the pitcher feast, or Coes, when the wife of the chief archon was formally impregnated by the god. The third day was the feast of the pots, or Chitroi, when spirits of the dead were appropriated and supposedly, like the vine god himself, resurrected from the underworld. Association of the jar with the springtime savior was already old, long before Christianity assimilated it. So that's the first reading about the jar and the historical significance of that symbology. Okay. Let's go to the next one. I think it was one. Yes, it was 150. Okay. So 150 is the next page. The first page, just in case I didn't say it, is 140. The next page is 150, so that was jar. The next one is pot. Okay, and I'll show you the picture for that. See that little clay pot up there in the corner? Ugh. The little clay pot there in the corner. Okay, so that's pot. One of the Sumero-Babylonian titles of the goddess was the potter, also called Aruru the Great, who first created human beings out of clay. Also known as Ninersag, Mami, Mama, and Mamitu, Mother, she made the people, male and female, created she them. That was a quote. According to the pre-biblical scriptures. Early societies viewed pottery and other workings of clay as belonging to women because clay, earth, was woman's element. The Maya called the oldest form of pottery mamam, the grandmother. So M-A-M-O-N, my mom, the grandmother. Pottery was the feminine invention. The original potter was a woman. Only under the influence of advanced culture does it become a man's occupation. The biblical God's creation of Adam out of clay was stolen outright from ancient scriptures of the potter goddess, whose creative substance was Adama, or bloody clay. Clay pots, therefore, occur everywhere in mythology as metaphoric human beings, souls, or divine persons. Celtic clay pots, crudely incised with human faces, represented either the souls of the dead or the deities to whom the dead were consigned. In pagan Scandinavia, upturned pots were soul symbols. Many of them found in passage graves in East Jutland. In India, a black pot was the symbol of the goddess Kali. Farmers hung it in their fields to avert the evil eye from their crops. The Hindu hero Drona was born from a pot. A sacred pot known as the Kurnos at Eleusis signified the womb from which the dying god Adonis would be reborn. Sacred gardens of Adonis, sprouting kernels of grain, were planted at Easter time each year by the women of Italy all the way up until the 20th century. So that is that. So we're just going to keep it moving because I've got a bunch of them portioned off to talk to you about. Okay. Okay. The next page is 288. 288 is the next page. All right. So this is on Aquarius himself, or directly. To the Greeks, the constellation Aquarius was Hydrocus, or the water pot. The Persians called it Dul, D-U-L, the water pot. In Sanskrit, it was Kumbha, the pot. But the Babylonians named it Gula, the goddess. And the Romans followed them by naming it Juno, the goddess. The traditional sign, however, signifies waves of water. Aquarius was said to be ruled by the planet Saturn until the discovery of the next planet, Uranus, in the 18th century. After that, Aquarius was said to be under the Uranian influence. Uranus was the castrated and deposed. Uranus was the god castrated and deposed by Saturn. By Saturn. Kronos, Uranus, or heavenly, was the original heavenly father and the husband of Mother Earth. Aquarius pours out the waters of the world. Therefore, Aquarians are said to be like water, hard to pin down, erratic, subject to fits of unrest, and often shallow. Yet they are also called thoughtful, mystical, serene, and artistic. Aquarians are associated with freedom, inventiveness, collective reform movements, and causes that are opposed to prejudice or narrow-mindedness in any form. No doubt this is why the various trends towards liberation in the 20th century are taken to indicate an Aquarian age. Yeah. Okay, and I'll read the rest. I'll do that later. Okay. All right, so the next page is going to be 486. 486. Okay, now this is still related, and it's going to seem off course, but it's still related to the significance of Aquarius in general, but actually more closely related to Saturn as Aquarius's ruler and as the ruler of Capricorn. So this is going to be like kind of the three coming together. This is on page 486, the subject of grain. Wheat, rye, oats, millet, barley, nearly all grains except rice could fall in the general category of corn, according to European definitions. What Americans call corn was either Indian corn or maize to Europeans, which tends to confuse the many references to the corn mother of pagan Europe. But to clarify, she was usually the Mother Earth who gave birth to all grains. Gave birth to all grains. You know what? Okay. The son of this mother was typically the dying and resurrected God who personified all grain. His death, or reaping, brought life to humankind. He descended into the underworld, planting, and he rose again from the dead, only to be harvested and sacrificed again each season. Ho! According to the Egyptian scriptures, man at the moment of his death is also a grain which falls into the earth in order to draw from her bosom a new life. Y'all. Yeah. Oh. Listen, y'all. I ain't gonna say it, but I will just say this: based on just this little section that I've never read, so I'm having a whole moment. So based on this little section right here about the child, the son of the mother, as the death and resurrection God who ensures the continued feeding and thriving of mankind. This is the reason that once they were Canaanites, turned Hebrews under the worship of Yahweh. This is the reason that the very first human story that you read in this book is the firstborn Cain, because I don't know that y'all know this or not, but I did not know until very recently that Cain and Abel, at least according to the story, Cain and Abel were twins. We were always told that Cain was the oldest, and so you assume he was born first. Cain and Abel were twins. And this story where the first murder happens because Cain is, quote, jealous because he offers his grains to God as an offering, and Abel offers a killed and burnt sacrifice, and God rejects Cain's sacrifice, and so in a fit of jealousy, quote, kills Abel. This is the story. This is the basis of the story right here. And as a matter of fact, what's her name? Barbara Moore talks about it in The Great Cosmic Mother, Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth. This is the origin of this story. So anyway, the metaphor was universally employed, even copied into the Gospels, except of a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, and it bringeth forth much fruit. John 12:24. John 12:24. Wheat was the plant of truth. Wheat was the plant of truth. Cultivated on the mummy cases of Osiris and made into communion cakes to be eaten by worshipers so that they could partake of the god's divinity. Yikes. Yo. Osiris, they were made into communion cakes. The wheat, I knew the handy dandy pen was going to make its way in here. Millet traditionally linked to the mystical protection and features in spiritual events, including funerals and in places like Burkina Faso. Oh, nice. QB, do you have a like a reference for where I can find that? Make sure y'all, when y'all drop good shit, y'all know I can't be taking notes, especially when I'm on a crunch. Make sure to email me this good shit. You feel me? The things that I have to go back and research and look up later. Mm-hmm. I was QB says this is so timely. I was watching people make things out of polymer clay last night under the moon. I was guided to make moon water and charge my crystals last night. But yes, let's see, millet aids in the cleansing of the liver and improving gut health, which can be seen as purifying the body for spiritual pursuits. Yeah, all them little bullet points y'all dropping up in here that I can't give no time to the way I would like to. Put that in an email for me so I can come back to this, because I'm going to be doing a longer version of this later. Okay. All right. So wheat was the plant of truth cultivated in the mummy cases of Osiris and made into communion cakes to be eaten by worshipers so that they could partake of the god's divinity. And become immortal like him. Egyptians were among the first to eat their god in the form of bread. Golly. And instead of the flesh of sacrificial animals or human surrogates. But the cults of many other savior gods followed suit. Adonis too was worshipped as a savior god and cultivated as sprouting grain in the famous, quote, gardens of Adonis, where clay pots were used to symbolize the mother's womb, a commonplace custom all the way up to the 20th century AD. The flesh of Dionysus also was eaten in the form of wheat cakes, while his blood was drank in the form of wine. Grain gods represented the wheat or barley crops at Elias, whatever, and other pagan shrines where the cycles of growth were controlled by the Great Mother, Demeter, Ceres, Ops, and Terramata, who resurrected them from the underground tomb womb and who was shown crowned with sheaths. A mythical English saint was created from a rather sloppy canonization of this same Earth Mother. She was Saint Milburga, whose name means simply the place of the mill. She was alleged to have lived in the 8th century, although there were no records of her before the 12th. Her sacred spring still exists in Stoke St. Milborough. The customary growth miracle, instant maturity upon the planting of the seed, marks her hagiographical fairy tale, and the oldest version of her feast day marked spring sowing season. Christianity also took over the Roman festival of purification of the sprouting grain, originally an invocation of the Earth Mother to protect the crop from blight. In pagan times, it was the Robigalia, transformed by the church into a pseudo-Christian Rogation Day, April 25th, which employed the same rituals but changed the name of the deity. The church's official doctrine of transubstantiation also copied from pagan antiquity, for Christians and pagans alike declared that the communion bread was the God's flesh, in fact, not only in imagination. When this doctrine was openly doubted in the 13th and 14th centuries, innumerable heresies were bred from it, and the first Protestant churches were founded on its denial. The controversy dragged on for 7 centuries and still continues today. Voltaire summed up the transubstantiation quarrels by saying that the Catholics eat God but not bread, Calvinists eat bread but not God, and the Lutherans eat both. Voltaire had jokes. Shit. Anyway, the rest of the world, presumably, is simply grateful for the existence of edible grains that form the staple food nearly everywhere. Um, 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 Okay. The rest of the world, presumably, is simply grateful for the existence of edible grains that form the staple food nearly everywhere. There was also a magical shrine that gave women particular cause for gratitude, that of Saint Wilgefortz, whose statue stood in St. Paul's Cathedral in London. It was said that unhappy wives could visit this saint with offerings of a peck of grain, and their cruel husbands would soon drop dead. Woo! Well, okay. For this reason, the saint was nicknamed Saint Uncumber. Saint Uncumber. Since women of past centuries had little defense against abusive spouses, Uncumber was popular. And let's see. Okay, so that was that. Hold on. What my time looked like. Okay, I'm good. Okay, so still keeping in line with the symbolism that is important. So that's what I had. Oh, happy coming birthday, little Aquarius, no name Y4X8W. Happy early birthday. Okay, so that was just me discussing the symbolism of the pot. Okay, that is associated with obviously the water bearer who holds the waters of heaven in a pot. Okay, so next, let's see. Okay, that is it. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So now we're going to go to water. I'm just going to read a little bit more. We're going to go to water, which is the first one starts on page 4. Let's see. Since I'm going to be talking about, I'm just having a thought. Since I'm going to be talking about later the significance, because we just came out of Capricorn, but like I said, Capricorn and Aquarius are the only 2 signs in the entire zodiacal circle that not only share the same planets, but they are the only 2 that share the same planet back to back. Okay, and so this is significant. And so even though we're talking about Aquarius, I told you that big Saturn energy is coming. So we're talking about Aquarius, and we're talking about Capricorn, and we're talking about what unites the both of them, which is Saturn, aka great grandmother crone, right? But also the other planet associated with Aquarius, making it both the water bearer and the light bearer, is the planet Uranus. Okay, and so like I'll be talking over the next several weeks, right, about the symbols, the signs, the hidden esoteric necessities that your ass must know based on this particularly important period from the winter solstice to pretty much the end of the spring equinox. All right. Okay. So we're going to talk about water because and we're going to probably have to talk about Neptune because this conjunction that is coming is inclusive of Neptune and of Neptune and Neptune's Neptune rules Pisces, right? So there's a lot happening. Okay, there's a lot of like big primordial energy, and again, all of this that's happening over these next 6 to 8 weeks is still happening under the umbrella that governs everything until 2044, which is Pluto in Aquarius for the first time in 256 years, or 248 years. Okay, all right. So the next thing we're going to talk about, because we have a lot of water here, we have heavenly water. We also have the primordial deep ancestral water. We have Aquarius as the water bearer, and we have Neptune with its sign of Pisces. All right. Okay. So we're going to talk about water next, but there's a lot of symbols too that we're going to be discussing. I think this one, since I got 15 minutes left. I might, I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Okay, so if you go to page 3 of the same book, go to page 3. Below there, and it brings me to something that I may have to talk about later. But it brings you at the bottom, to a symbol that, though you may not see the connection, this symbol is extreme, and this symbol is coming up. Oh shit. Okay. This symbol is coming up. So the symbol is the black sun. All right. The symbol is the black sun. See that? See that? All right. The symbol is the black sun. And just a little bit of a digression. There's a person here the other night, and we were watching TV, and somehow, I don't even know how it came up, but the song by Soundgarden, Black Hole Sun, came to my consciousness. We were talking about some stuff, whatever. The book, again, for those of you who have traipsed up in here late, you feel me, is the Women's Dictionary of Symbols and Sacred Objects. So the song Black Hole Sun came forward in my consciousness. I was like, shit, we need to watch that right now, right? And so we watched the song by Soundgarden that was released in like, I don't know, 94, 93, something like that. And the hook is, or the chorus is, black hole sun, won't you come and wash away the rain? Black hole sun, do. And so I was like, and watching the video after all these years, I was like, oh shit, right? Here we are today. Black sun is the next thing we're going to read, and you'll see why it is significant. A plain black circle was to symbolize the spirit of the solar or heavenly god during his cyclic passages through the underworld. In this phase, according to Egyptian scriptures, he became the hidden one, the Amen, Amen, or the Lord of Death, Seker, Seker, hidden in a pyramid of the blackest darkness at the earth's core. His blackness was as intensely dark as the sun's light was intensely bright. He soon became mythologized as the sun god's dark twin brother, like Ahriman and Auru Mazda in Persia, or Nergal Nanib to Anu in Mesopotamia. The dark brother became an opponent of the bright brother, with further development of dualism, which divided the world between forces of light and dark, or good and evil. Thus, the black sun came to symbolize many underworld gods, including Saturn, Pluto, Hades, Python, Apollyon, Zeus, Chthonius, Yama, and such fallen angel figures as Lucifer, Satan, or Beelzebub, who became assimilated to the Christian devil. This relates, this little passage relates to Aquarius too, because Aquarius has always been known as the water bearer. Even in the Bible, Aquarius is the water bearer, the strange person carrying the pitcher of water and entering into this new house, right? But Aquarius in the modern age is associated with Uranus, who is the light bearer. How does he bear light? Typically through lightning. He is represented as a literal bolt of lightning. Uranus, the planet Uranus. Well, who does Uranus rule in the modern age? Aquarius. So again, Aquarius is both the light bearer and the water bearer. This is important to keep in the front of your brain all the time. All right. And what it's saying is that the black sun and all of the gods that were associated with the black sun became diabolicized. So Saturn, Pluto, Hades, Python, Apollyon, Zeus, Yama, and such fallen angels as Lucifer, Satan, and Beelzebub, who became assimilated to the Christian devil. And also, this is why I mentioned earlier that Prometheus, the god Prometheus, is associated with Aquarius. Well, not in it. Yeah, Aquarius as this, quote, child ruled by Uranus. And why is this important? Because this year alone, a movie and a movie remake by Tara, whatever his name is, and then also a television series in the same month were released called Frankenstein. Why is this significant? Because when Mary Shelley wrote the book in 1818, reducing to the what number? 1818, she wrote the book and published the book when she wrote the book at the age of 18. And then a year later, published the book in 1818. So 999, right? And the name of the book wasn't just Frankenstein. The subtitle of the book was Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus. The Modern Prometheus. So in this year, when this big event is sexually sandwiched between two Promethean events happens, they release not only the movie remake of Frankenstein, but a whole series called Frankenstein. I find that striking. And to give you an idea, we always think about Frankenstein as the little zombie pieced together human being, but that was not Frankenstein. The book was about the man, Dr. Frankenstein. He who seeks to be like his mother and give life. How does he give life to a bunch of parts that he pieces together? He harnesses the power of lightning. Okay, so anyway, this is important. God damn. Yet all the while, the sun continued to rise and decline in the sky hourly, daily, and yearly. Seeing this, many people retained the original idea of the black sun as a secret, wiser version. Many people retained the original idea of the black sun as a secret, wiser version of the solar god who knew neither world as well as he knew the heavens. To medieval alchemists, the soul Niger, which means black sun, the sun black, right, meant prime matter. Prime matter. Soul Niger meant prime matter. Or matter in an untouched primordial state. Okay, I got just a few more minutes before I have to go, and then I'll pick this back up later. Okay. All right. Let's try that. 34. No. 336. Um, let me try one more because I might save that one for later. I don't want to rush through that. 341. Let me mark that. Indisposed in my youth, no one knows. 430, 41. Damn, that one we might have to do later too. Yeah, okay, hold on. 56. I might have to do 56. All right, let's do that. Okay, so the next page is 356, and this will be the last one that I read before I have to get off and do this reading, and then I'll come back. I'll come back later. This is water. Water of life was once identified with the cosmic womb, the deep of many different creation myths. To Thales of Miletus, water was the arche, Arche, the first cause at the beginning of all things. Zosimus said, without divine water, nothing exists. Porphyry said the souls of the dead are drawn to water because it is the essence of birth. Water sources were very important in Celtic religion. In some areas, the local goddess of springs was named Coventina, she of the covens, appearing in the typically Celtic Trinitarian form of three persons in one. Especially revered in Britain were the waters of the goddess Sulis at Bath, and the spring and grove of the goddess Arnamatia at Buxton, which used to be named Aquae Arnamatia, water of the goddess of the Holy Grove. Okay, water flowing in 2 or sometimes 4 streams from the goddess at a time of creation was a common version of the rivers of paradise symbol. The water goddess was shown holding either her own breast or a jar with 2 streams. So remember, I was talking to y'all, I think it was last night, about the anima mundi, and she's standing on top of the earth with 1 foot in the ocean, 1 foot on the land, and one breast has the sun shining from it, and the other breast she is holding as, quote, heavenly water flows from it. That's what it's talking about. So it says the goddess was shown holding either her own breast or a jar with 2 streams. And the old idea that water could absorb spirits led to the medieval custom of pouring water from all the jars and pitchers after a death in the house. There was an odd parallel to the sequence of the tarot cards, Greater Secrets Trumps, where the where the card of death is followed by a water pouring angel. Another card, the star card, which is the Aquarius card. The star card is the Aquarius card, by the way. The star card shows the naked goddess pouring water from her 2 jars. Is this why they call our boobs jugs? Is this where this comes from? This like ancient memory that is analogous with jars being boobs? Is that why in the modern era you'll hear men call women's boobies jugs? So the star card shows the naked goddess pouring water from her 2 jugs onto the earth and sea. Hindu compendia like the Tantra Sara declared that baptism in water was more effective than any mantra or prayer for protection against enemies, catastrophes, or evil spirits. Water baptism was such a commonplace magical rite that Christians copied it from the pagans and have used it ever since. Another widely copied tale was that of the holy man who could demonstrate power over water by walking on its surface without sinking. Buddha and other Oriental sages maintained that a holy man highly skilled in yoga would be able to walk on water. The Greek hero Iphiclus could not only walk on water, he could also run over a field of grain without bending the stalks. The god Poseidon claimed such power over the sea that he could even make his horses God damn. Yo. Shit. That the god Poseidon claimed such power over the sea that he could make his horses gallop over the surface of the waves without sinking. So many magicians made the water walking claim that the satiric poet Lucian put it into the mouth of his mock wizard. The story of Jesus's water walking was based on these on precedences like these. Okay, now I gotta go. All right, so I will come back after this reading to go a little bit deeper and more disciplined way with the reading and this discussion, so that we can be adequately prepared to walk into this most magnanimous period, not walking into the period with the deliberate and orchestrated fear that this administration is trying to get us to take up as our own, that we can seize possession over our personal universes, and by virtue of all of us taking possession of our own personal universes, together becoming a universe. I mean, a multiverse of universes that now can stage a contest. Okay? All right, so I'll see y'all in a few minutes. Peace.